Imagine waking up, right, as the chief technology officer of a billion-dollar household name tech company.
Oh, the dream job.
Yeah, exactly. You have the corner office, the massive compensation package, the sheer executive prestige.
Right.
And then you decide to just voluntarily resign. You walk away from the C-suite entirely.
Just leave it all behind.
Leave it all behind, and you take a desk job as a frontline individual contributor.
Which sounds completely irrational.
It sounds totally unhinged, like completely
Right.
irrational, right? But over the last year, 6 different CTOs have done exactly that.
It's wild.
And they all left for the exact same reason to work at the exact same company.
Which is just a stunning indicator of where we are right now. I mean, looking at the dispatches from the front lines of the tech industry today, you are seeing a landscape that is, frankly, borderline chaotic,
Yeah.
but it's also hyper-focused on this one single objective.
Right. And our mission for this session today, for you listening, is to take all that chaos, dig through this incredibly dense stack of news items we have from the Daily Tech Reader. This is all dated Wednesday, July 15th, 2026, and actually try to make sense of it for you.
We have a lot of ground to cover.
We really do. We are going to synthesize this whole mid-2026 tech reality. I mean, we're talking massive, unprecedented capital flows, physical hardware constraints that are hitting very concrete global limits.
Yeah.
Literal concrete limits.
Exactly. Plus, the quantifiable real-world fallout for human jobs and the intense legal battles that are defining this current AI arms race. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We have to start with the money and the brains, because before we can even begin to understand the technology itself, we have to follow this insane consolidation of wealth and talent.
Right. I always say to understand the future, you have to follow the venture capital.
Yeah.
But the numbers we were looking at for just the first 6 months of 2026, they completely defy traditional market logic. I mean, U.S. venture capital has poured $355.9 billion into AI in half a year.
In just half a year, yes.
Right, but hold on. Let me just pause you right there. $355.9 billion in 6 months.
Crazy, right?
That represents, according to the sources, 86% of all VC funding.
Yeah, 86%.
86%? I mean, are we just inflating the biggest dot-com bubble in history here?
Right?
How is that remotely sustainable, especially when we see this massive concentration risk?
Look.
Because the sources show that just OpenAI and Anthropic alone are eating up nearly half of all that global funding themselves.
Right, they are.
They are essentially starving out founders in literally every other sector.
It's a really fair question, but it's not a traditional software bubble where you just buy some server space and run a bunch of ads. What's fascinating here is how the capital and the human intellect are forming this relentless, incredibly tight feedback loop.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, the goal for a company like Anthropic isn't just about building a shiny consumer app anymore. It is about achieving compute independence and this idea of recursive self-improvement, all before they hit their target October 2026 IPO.
Ah, the IPO.
Exactly.
Wow.
And to do that, they need an absolute monopoly on elite talent.
Which brings us right back to those CTOs I mentioned at the top. The source material details this very clear pattern. We're talking executives from Workday, Instagram, BoxU.com, Super.com, and Adept AI, 6 major companies. And they walked away to be individual researchers at Anthropic.
Just writing code again?
I mean, going back to my opening thought, it's like top-ranking generals voluntarily demoting themselves to frontline infantry just to make absolutely sure they are holding a rifle in the single most important battle of the war. Is this just a massive structural narrowing of the whole industry?
That is a perfect way to look at it, actually.
Yeah.
And the crown jewel of this whole talent acquisition strategy just happened.
Oh, yeah.
Anthropic just hired Andrej Karpathy.
That's huge.
Right, he's one of the original co-founders of OpenAI, and he's joining their pre-training team.
Let me stop you there, because we hear terms like pre-training thrown around a lot in these articles. What does his role actually mean in plain English?
Okay, think of it this way. Pre-training isn't tweaking the final personality of the AI chatbot you end up talking to.
Right. It's not just making it polite.
Exactly. It is building the foundational brain from scratch. It's the heaviest, most complex part of the engineering.
Got it.
And Karpathy's specific mandate at Anthropic is mind-bending. He is tasked with building systems where the Claude model actually accelerates its own training.
So wait, training Claude?
Yes.
A recursive self-improvement loop.
Exactly. You use the smartest AI you have today, right now, to write the code and optimize the architecture for the next, even smarter version of itself.
That is wild.
Anthropic is racing to lock in this narrative of elite talent density, mostly to build the ultimate war chest for that October IPO.
But that massive war chest brings us to a massive problem. Because you hear about all these billions of dollars and you have to ask, why do they physically need so much cash?
The hardware?
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting. We are hitting a physical ceiling. We have this illusion that AI is just, software floating in the ether.
A cloud.
Yeah, the magical cloud. But the reality is that AI is quickly becoming the heaviest, most resource-intensive industry on planet Earth right now.
It is relentlessly physical. People forget that. It requires land, steel, and just a breathtaking amount of electricity and silicon.
Let's look at the actual bill here. The sources say Anthropic is currently facing a compute bill of $1.25 billion.
Yeah.
And that is not an annual budget. That is a monthly bill.
A month, yeah.
A $1.25 billion monthly compute bill. How do you even begin to manage a cost like that?
Well, you start looking at custom hardware, which is why the reporting shows Anthropic is in early-stage talks with Samsung Electronics.
Do what?
To manufacture a custom AI inference chip.
Okay, let's define that for a second for everyone listening. An inference chip.
Right. So in AI, there is training, which is basically having the model read the whole internet to learn.
That's the pre-training we just talked about.
Exactly. And then there is inference, which is actually answering your prompt when you type a question into the box.
Ah, okay.
Inference is what happens millions of times a second when the product is live for users. If Anthropic can get Samsung to build a chip tuned explicitly for Claude's specific architecture,
Then they save money.
right, they can theoretically drastically reduce the power and cost of running the model.
But they haven't even decided on the architecture or the power targets for this chip yet. And meanwhile, the global supply chain is absolutely maxed out. Look at TSMC.
The world's largest semiconductor manufacturer.
Right. Their leading-edge N3 chip node is completely sold out through the entire year of 2026.
You can't get one.
No. Tech stocks are climbing right now just on the AI chip optimism ahead of TSMC's full Q2 earnings report this Thursday. But what does that N3 node actually mean? Why is everyone fighting so hard for it?
Okay, so N3 refers to a 3-nanometer manufacturing process.
3 nanometers.
Yes. It's about how microscopically small you can make the transistors on the chip. The smaller they are, the more you can pack in.
And the more you pack in.
The faster and more energy efficient the chip becomes. So when the N3 line is completely sold out, it means the absolute cutting edge of human manufacturing capacity is tapped out.
Wow. It's like trying to power a major metropolis, but the factory that makes the only capable power lines is backordered for a whole year.
That's a good way to put it.
And speaking of powering a metropolis, look at the sheer geopolitical scale of this. South Korea just announced an $880 billion 10-year AI plan.
Massive numbers.
Huge. $518 billion just for chips. $550 billion for data centers. They are targeting 8.4 gigawatts of power specifically for AI by 2029.
Yep.
And they want 20% of the entire humanoid robotics market by 2028.
Because they recognize that if you don't own the physical infrastructure, the silicon and the power grid,
Yep.
you're entirely at the mercy of those who do.
Right.
The virtual world requires concrete and copper. Computing power is basically the new global oil.
And the ones who do own it are struggling. The source stack shows Google, which is a massive hyperscaler running some of the biggest data centers on Earth.
They own the infrastructure.
Right. And Google is getting caught rationing Gemini compute access to Meta, which is one of Google's own biggest customers.
It's wild.
Imagine being a tech titan like Meta, worth absolute fortunes, and Google has to basically tell you, sorry, the virtual power grid is tapped out.
And that physical pushback is happening at the local regulatory level today, too. Did you see the New York stuff?
Yeah. New York State's one-year moratorium on new hyperscale data center construction took formal effect today.
Yeah.
So they just legally paused all new mega data centers.
Correct. It's a logistical reality check.
Yeah.
The regulators are basically looking at the immense energy and water cooling demands these hyperscale facilities require.
Because they run so hot.
Exactly.
Got it.
And the state is saying, look, we need a year to figure out how this impacts our actual state power grid. The physical world is literally throwing up stop signs.
But, and this is the crazy part, despite those physical bottlenecks, the deployment of this technology isn't slowing down at all.
Not even a little bit.
New tools are relentlessly launching. And with that deployment, we are now crossing a very real threshold. We are seeing hard, quantifiable evidence of the displacement happening in the human workforce.
The transition from just theory to brutal economic reality is happening very quickly.
Google just launched Gemini Enterprise at Cloud Next 26. It's aimed directly at Anthropic's Claude Co-work and OpenAI's ChatGPT work.
Enterprise tools.
Right. And speaking of OpenAI, they are pushing forward with a 2026 consumer device reveal. They are partnering with Jony Ive's design firm, I.O.
The former Apple designer.
Exactly. And this is happening even while OpenAI faces a trade secrets lawsuit from Apple over it. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Because the data is getting stark.
Very stark.
Look at Muse, a hotel software unicorn. They just laid off 15% of its staff. That's 170 people.
Yeah.
The CEO brutally stated that those eliminated roles were built for an era, quote, that is ceasing to exist due to AI agents.
Ouch.
So I have to ask you, are we officially witnessing the death of the human team workflow?
Well, according to the workforce data we're looking at, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It is a paradigm shift from a collaborative team of, say, 5 humans sharing tasks to what we call an individual plus AI workflow.
Okay, unpack that.
You have one human acting almost as a manager, overseeing a whole suite of specialized AI agents that execute the coding, the drafting, the data analysis.
Right?
And we have to be clear here. Based on the Muse layoffs and the publishing data, this isn't some 5-year prediction. It is the present reality.
The macro data backs that up completely. Look at the white-collar payrolls in media, publishing, and advertising. They have contracted for 12 straight months.
A full year.
A full year of shrinking headcounts in a non-recession economy. That data was specifically cited in the recent We Must Act Now letter.
Which perfectly explains the next phase of this landscape.
The pushback.
Exactly. When you have entire industries displacing workers and power grids being strained to their absolute limits, you inevitably trigger a massive institutional backlash.
Yeah.
You can't rewire the global economy without the existing systems fighting back.
Exactly. You can't displace that many people and drain that much power and expect the courts and governments to just quietly sit there and watch.
No, of course not.
The pushback is happening everywhere. Let's look at copyright law. The New York Times is escalating its high-profile case against OpenAI. The Times is actively seeking court sanctions, alleging that OpenAI intentionally withheld evidence regarding how its models were trained on Times journalism.
It's a defining battle over who actually owns the raw data that makes AI possible.
Right.
But the friction goes far beyond just copyright. It's about baseline safety.
Oh man, this part of the source material genuinely blew my mind. The Future of Life Institute released their 2026 AI Safety Index. I'm looking at these grades right now. Wait, the absolute best grade for the companies building the most powerful, society-altering technology in human history is a C+, a C+ red.
And that C+ went to Anthropic. OpenAI and Google DeepMind received a C.
Just a C.
Meta got a D+ red. And models like XAI, DeepSeek, and Mistral failed entirely on the index's metrics.
A literal failing grade.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no wonder governments are stepping in. The EU Commission is moving toward mandatory pre-market AI model testing with ENISA for critical sectors by year-end 2026. The source describes it as a, quote, pharmaceutical-style clearance model.
Now, this raises an important question about enforcement. A pharmaceutical-style model means you don't just release a drug and see if people get sick, right?
Right, you can't just put it on shelves.
You have to prove to regulators it is safe in clinical trials before it hits the market.
Wow.
The EU wants to apply that exact same friction to AI models in critical sectors.
But how do you even enforce that globally? Because we see the tension in geopolitics right now. Look at what happened with Z.AI. Teng Jie, the founder of ZAI, just published a memo actively pushing back against Chinese government discussions regarding restricting overseas access to domestic Chinese AI models.
Yeah, trying to keep it within borders.
Right. But meanwhile, you have American institutions like Goldman Sachs actively recommending Chinese AI to their Wall Street clients.
It highlights the inherent contradiction we're dealing with here.
Exactly.
You have the EU trying to lock it down like medicine. You have domestic governments trying to restrict cross-border access, and then financial institutions are just treating it all as a borderless global commodity.
It's a mess. Okay, before we wrap up, we need to zoom out a bit because the AI story is massive. But if we look at the physical constraints we talked about earlier, the fight for resources and infrastructure on Earth, that same structural consolidation is playing out above us in space and in our media ecosystem.
It really is.
And strangely, it's all colliding on one specific day this week.
It's a striking convergence of events.
Let's look at space first. Rocket Lab just successfully launched an Electron rocket from New Zealand for an undisclosed government client.
Right.
They're maintaining this incredibly rapid launch cadence to prep for their much larger Neutron rocket.
They're scaling up.
Scaling up, yeah. And NASA's $4.3 billion Roman Space Telescope is exactly 45 days away from its August 30 launch on a massive SpaceX Falcon Heavy.
And the Roman Space Telescope is designed to basically map the universe and unravel dark energy.
Mind-blowing stuff.
But it requires a staggering amount of capital and specialized launch infrastructure to even get off the ground.
Just like the massive AI models, you need the heavy physical infrastructure to do the virtual mapping.
Exactly.
And then look at media law, the antitrust fight over the Paramount-Warner Bros. Discovery merger is boiling over. 12 states are suing to block the consolidation of these massive content libraries ahead of a crucial Thursday ruling.
Right.
Which brings us to the horizon. Tomorrow, Thursday, July 17th, is being dubbed the biggest day in AI this year.
3 massive tectonic plates shifting on the exact same day.
First, Google's Gemini 3.5 Pro launches with a 2 million token context window. Real quick, for someone not living in the developer docs every day, what does a 2 million token context window actually mean for a user?
Okay, so a context window is basically the AI's short-term memory for a single conversation.
Right.
2 million tokens means you could drop a dozen thick textbooks or an entire company's financial history into the chat box all at once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the AI can remember and analyze every single detail in one go without forgetting the beginning of the prompt.
That's incredible.
It's a massive leap in capability.
So we have that launch. Then TSMC releases their full Q2 earnings, giving us the ultimate health check on the physical chip supply chain we talked about.
Right, everyone will be watching that.
And President Xi Jinping is giving his first ever keynote at the World AI Conference in Shanghai. I mean, the sheer volume of global history happening on a random Thursday in July is staggering.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you realize that a state antitrust lawsuit against Hollywood studios, a multi-billion-dollar space telescope launch, and the release of a massive frontier AI model aren't separate stories anymore.
They're all linked.
Yes, they're all facets of a rapidly consolidating digital and physical world. I mean, the specialized infrastructure required to launch a rocket, the immense capital required to merge historic media empires, and the gigawatts of compute required to train an AI model. They are all drawing on the exact same constrained global resources and navigating the same fierce geopolitical tensions.
That brings it all together perfectly. So to recap the journey we just took you on today, we started by following hundreds of billions in VC funding flowing almost entirely into the pockets of 2 AI giants.
Yep.
We explored the concrete physical weight of this industry, exhausting power grids and forcing states like New York to literally hit the pause button on new data centers.
The physical stop signs.
Exactly. We looked at the stark, undeniable reality of job displacement, where the individual plus AI workflow is actively replacing the human team workflow.
Which is happening right now.
Right now. And we navigated the looming legal and regulatory battles as the EU, the courts, and global governments try to build a regulatory fence around a technology that inherently defies borders.
It is a landscape defined by incredible physical friction, but also unprecedented technological acceleration.
Exactly. And that brings me back to the very beginning of our deep dive today. We talked about those hotel software teams and the media workers losing their jobs because their roles became quote-unquote obsolete in the age of AI agents.
Yeah, brutal reality.
But I want you to remember what Andrej Karpathy was just hired by Anthropic to do. He is building systems where Claude trains Claude in a recursive self-improvement loop.
The holy grail for these frontier labs. Replacing human engineering with AI engineering.
Right. So here's a thought for you to take with you today. If AI is coming for the white-collar workers and the middle managers right now, how long until this self-improving AI comes for the jobs of the elite AI researchers themselves?
A provocative question to end on.
Something to mull over as you watch the news drop tomorrow. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us. We'll catch you next time.